Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to be doing an intro to long division, so let's get right into it. So here's a simple problem. We have 21 divided by 7, and we want to find the answer to this. So another way to think about it is, how many times does 7 go into 21? So you might remember from multiplication that multiplying is kind of like adding. So let's say we have 3 times 5. Another way to write out 3 times 5 is just 0 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, and we get 15. So as you can see, 3 times 5 just means that we add 3 to 0 5 times, and we get 15. But division is basically just the opposite of multiplication. So instead of adding from 0 to get your answer, we're going to subtract from the numerator, which is the first number in the division statement, until we get 0, and that's basically what the answer is going to be to our division statement. So in this case, we have 21 divided by 7, and we can write this like 21 minus 7, and then keep subtracting 7 until we get 0. So 21 minus 7 minus 7 minus 7 equals 0. And even though it's pretty obvious, the answer to 21 divided by 7 is 3. And all that means is that we subtracted 7 from 21 3 times. So 21 divided by 7 equals 3. So as you saw in the last question, we just subtracted the denominator, which was 7, from the numerator, which was 21, until we got 0. And then we basically just counted how many times we had to subtract it to get the answer to our division statement. But what if when we subtract the denominator, which is 8, from the numerator, which is 41, we don't get 0. We get something else. That's basically going to be our remainder. So let's just try subtracting 8 from 41 until we get 0, or at least close to it, because 8 doesn't go into 41 a perfect amount of times, because 8 is not a multiple of 41. So 41 minus 8 is equal to 33. 33 minus 8 is equal to 25. 25 minus 8 is equal to 17. 17 minus 8 is equal to 9, and 9 minus 8 is equal to 1. So see how if we subtract 8 from 1, we're going to get a number below 0? That basically just means that this is our remainder. So 8 goes into 41 5 times, since we subtracted 8 from 41 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we have a remainder of 1. So that means that 41 divided by 8 equals 5, with a remainder of 1. So now we have a bit of a bigger number. Now what if we don't want to subtract 2 from 322? However many times it's going to take. It's going to take a lot of times, because you'd have to do 322 minus 2 equals 320, 320 minus 2 equals 318, and so on and so forth. Well, we can actually use a technique called long division, which is what I'm going to teach you right now. So the question is asking, how many times does 2 go into 322? Basically, we can write this out in a math statement like 322 divided by 2. Now the first step to writing out a long division statement is to understand which number you are taking away from which number. So in this case, we're going to figure out how many times we can take away 2 from 322 to get 0. And we're going to do that using long division. So what we want to do is write the long division statement like this. We want to write the denominator, which is 2, on the outside, and then draw a long division symbol, which looks exactly like this. And then on the inside of this symbol, we want to write the numerator, which is 322. And that's the number which we're going to take away from. So we have 2 and 322. Now, basically, we're going to write the answer for our division statement on top of this little division symbol right here. And I'm going to show you the steps for long division right now. So the first step is actually to figure out how many times the number 2 goes into this first number, which is 3. So how many times does 2 go into 3? The answer is it only goes into 3 once. So we're going to write that number, 1, on top of the division statement. So 3 goes into 2 one time. Then what we're going to do is we're going to multiply 2, which is our denominator, by this number, the number 1. And we're going to write that down underneath the numerator. So we're going to do 2 times 1 equals 2, and we're going to write that right here. And then what we're going to do is subtract 3 minus 2. And the answer to 3 minus 2 is 1. And then the next step is we're going to carry down the number next to the 3, which is 2. So we're going to carry this down and place it next to the 1. So we get 12. Now the next step to long division is to figure out how many times 2 goes into 12. And 2 goes into 12 6 times, because 12 divided by 2 is 6. You're just going to have to memorize this and you'll get it through practice over time. So 12 divided by 2 is 6, or 2 goes into 12 6 times. So we're going to write that number on top of the division statement next to the 1. So now we're going to multiply the 2 by the 6 to get the number 12. And then we're going to subtract 12 from the 12 above, and we get 0. Now we're going to do the same thing that we did before. We're going to bring down the 2 and then figure out how many times our numerator, 2, goes into 2. And the answer is 2 goes into 2 one time. So then, all we do for the final time is we multiply the number 2 by 1, which is 2, and we subtract these two numbers, and we get 0. So that's our final answer. Our final answer is 2 goes into 322 161 times with a remainder of 0, which is the number that we got for our last subtraction. So if that last example wasn't really clear, that is totally okay. Long division is difficult to learn, and it takes a long time and a lot of practice in order to fully understand how to do it. So in this example, I'm going to go a little bit slower and break it down. So if you already got it, you can just skip this part and move on to my next video. But if you're still having a hard time with long division, just stick around and we'll do this example. So in this one, we're going to do how many times does 5, which is our denominator, go into 463, which is our numerator. So you might be able to tell, unlike the last example, that this one is a little bit more messy because we're going to have a remainder, because 5 doesn't go into 463 a perfect amount of times, right? Because 5 only goes into numbers that end in 5 or 0, right? Think about it. So the first step that we're going to do is we're going to figure out how many times 5 goes into 4, okay? So 5 goes into 4 0 times, right? So what we're going to do then is in our answer, we're going to write 0 on top of the 4. And then what we're going to do next is we're going to multiply 5. We're going to multiply 5 by 0, and we're going to get 0. And we're going to write that number underneath the first digit. So 5 multiplied by 0 is 0. And then we're going to subtract 0 from 4. And what we get is 4. Then we're going to carry down the 6, which is the next digit of the number. And we get 46. So now the next step is finding out how many times 5 goes into 46. And the answer is 9 times. Because if you remember, a quick way to kind of remember it is 5 times 9 equals 45. So 5 times 10 is 50. So that means that 5 only goes into 46 9 times. So the next step, obviously, is to write down the 9 above that digit. And then what we're going to do is we're going to multiply 5 by 9, and we're going to write it underneath the 46. So 5 times 9, like we just said, is equal to 45. And then we're going to subtract these numbers, just like that. So 46 minus 45 is equal to 1, and the next step in the long division is to carry down our 3. Now the next step is, just like we did previously, we're just going to repeat it, is how many times does 5 go into 13? The answer is 2 times, because 5 times 2 is 10, but 5 times 3 is 15. So 5 only goes into 13 2 times. So then the next step is to multiply 5 by 2, and we get 10, just like we said. And then the next step is to subtract these two numbers, and we get 13 minus 10, which is 3. So now, what the heck do we do next, right? Well, we're actually finished. So what we just did is we figured out how many times does 5 go into 463. And like I said before, there was going to be a remainder. And 3 is actually our remainder. So if we go ahead and type in 5 multiplied by 92, which is our answer up here in our calculators, we're going to get 460. So notice how 5 only goes into 463 92 times with a remainder of 3. Because if we do 463 divided by minus 460, then we get 3. So the answer to 463 divided by 5 equals 92 with a remainder of 3. So I hope this video kind of was helpful to giving you an introduction of the process of division and long division. And just let me know if you have any questions or comments down below, and I will catch you in the next one.